Hello everyone and welcome back. This is going to be my second tutorial on Python for beginners. And in this tutorial I'm going to be going a little bit more in depth on strings and variables, and I'm also going to show you how to grab user input. I'm also going to show you how to store the user input in a variable and use it in basic math operations and expressions inside of Python. So you see I have this basic application that I've created right here called tutorial.py. It's asking me for a number, so we're going to put in 5, and it's asking me for a second number, so I'm going to say 5. And you see it says console 5 multiplied by 5 is 25. So you see I've created a basic calculator here, and I'm just going to show you the code and go over what every line does and what it means, and how Python will go about executing this code. So if we look at Sublime here, we have our first line here is just a basic variable like we did last time. So we called our variable num1, and in order to grab input from the user, we said input, and then in parentheses we could say something like, what is your name? In this case we said first number. So what this will do is it will print whatever you put in quotes, it'll print that to the screen, and then it will allow you to type. So if we change that to what is your name, it would say what is your name on the screen and then allow us to reply. Of course, after that it wouldn't do anything since we don't have any other code running, but that's how you would grab user input. So what's happening here is it's creating a variable called num1, asking us for a number, and then when we put that number in, it's going to store that number inside of this num1 variable. Same thing for num2, it's just asking as a different string here. And you'll notice I have this little int thing here, and what this basically does is if we were to take this out, let's just go ahead and take this out, get rid of these quotes here. If we were to go ahead and take that out and then run it again, we'll ask us for a number like normal, it'll appear that it's working, but then we're going to get an error, and it says type error, can't multiply sequence by non-integer of type string. So basically what Python is saying is it, just like before, as in the last tutorial, has said that a string is anything inside of quotes. It can be a phrase or a word that does not contain a number. And so when we run this code, it's storing our number as a string, and it's saying, okay, so Python is saying, okay, let's store whatever for example, 5, let's store 5, but it's saving it and thinking of it as a word. It's not thinking of it as a number. So when we go here and we ask it to multiply, which is what we're doing here, num1 asterisk, which is the multiplication operator, times num2, it's trying to multiply it as if it were two different words. So it's like trying to multiply words. Obviously you can't multiply words, so what we need to do is we need to convert the string into an integer. So to do that, we just say int, and then wrap everything in parentheses. So I did that for integer number 1, and we put that for number 2, and that's that. Now, if we go a little bit further down the line, and we look at this line right here, it kind of appears to be our normal print statement, but there's a lot of fancy stuff going on inside of it. So basically what we have is it's just printing console. I just did that to make it look kind of a little bit fancy, but this isn't needed. This is totally optional. So it's just printing console inside of those brackets, and then this comma is used to concatenate different parts. So it's actually splitting this print statement into multiple parts. So printing console to the screen is our first part, and then printing num1 to the screen is our second part. And notice, like before, when we print a variable, we do not need quotes. So we just say print console, comma, our variable, comma, then the next part is also another string, so we say multiply by, comma, number 2. So we're saying, basically all this is saying is num1, which in this case we put 5, so 5, and then it's going to say multiply by 5 is second part, another part, and then we're just doing our math operator here, so we're saying num1 asterisk num2, which is a num1 multiplied by num2. So if we look at this in a little bit easier way, let me write this out in a different way for you. So we can have it say 5 times 5 is 25. So we would say, let's create a variable. So var equals 5. So we can say var, just calling our variable, it's going to print 5. We say comma to create another part of this print statement, and then in parentheses we can put a string. So we're going to say 5 times, then outside of that we put another comma, times var, comma, is is 25. So now when we do this, it's going to let's copy this and put this in IDLE. So what this is going to do, I need to also copy our variable. Get our variable and then print. So what this is going to do is it's splitting it into multiple parts and saying 5, then printing times, and then printing 5 is 25. So you can see 5 times 5 is 25. It's just basically splitting this up into multiple parts. So let's get rid of this, and that is our basic calculator in Python, and that is working with numbers. Now we can also change this value here, or operator here. We can say plus, so we can have it, instead of doing multiplication, we can have it doing addition. So let's run that again. So 5 plus 5. It still says multiply by 5 because I didn't change this, but if we say plus, so it says console 5 plus 5 is 10. But yes, the reason it still said multiplied is because I had multiplied by in this string. And we can also do division, so we just put a slash mark for division, and then change this to divided by. Open up our command prompt, cd desktop. So we can say 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now we can also use math operators in Python to grab the remainder of a division problem. So not only will Python do a division problem for us, but it will also give us just the remainder instead of the answer. So like we did before, we can do 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And we can also do, if we give it two numbers that do not divide out evenly, we can have it give us the remainder. So for example, 21 and %2. And it will give us the remainder 1, since the remainder of 21 divided by 2 is 1. So there you guys have it. This has been my second tutorial on going more in depth on variables and strings. I showed you how to convert a string into an integer. I showed you a few basic math operators and expressions inside of Python, and also how to concatenate and split apart print statements. In the next tutorial, I'm going to go and show you how to import modules, and we're also going to talk about classes and functions and things like that inside of Python. So, like always, if this tutorial was helpful in any way, shape, or form, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and also let me know in the comments what kind of videos you want to see in the future. If you like these kind of tutorials, then just let me know. If you want me to continue doing this Python tutorials, I'll be glad to do so. If you also want to see other things in the future, like I said before, if you want me to make a game or something, or I could also do live streams in the future and things like that, where I create stuff in Python. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's video up. If you liked it, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.